Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I feel lit up.
I know. That was a fun one.
Yeah.
Today, guys, we have a really special guest for you all. I am so excited to talk to her. You'll hear us just gush over her during the episode, but she really has been someone who's been really expansive for me in terms of what it means to be a mom and have an incredible career, and how balance does not exist, but we manage.
Yep.
And we rise to the occasion time and time again. So today, I'm very excited that we have Lizzy Mathis on the show. Let me tell you a little bit about Lizzy, because this bio is robust.
Oh, I know it is.
Lizzy Mathis is a dynamic entrepreneur, host, tastemaker, and founder of the Cool Mom Co., a diversity-driven, inclusive platform for mothers like herself who need a reminder to take care of themselves, including nourishing their dreams. Lizzy got her start in the modeling industry when she was 17 years old as Miss Teen Michigan, USA, before attending Northwestern University on a full academic scholarship. She then went on to pursue what has been an incredibly successful modeling and acting career. Most recently, Lizzy launched the Cool Mom Code podcast, a candid series giving listeners a behind the scenes of real talk conversations between moms and experts. And don't be fooled, this podcast is not kid-driven, but rather meant for moms to feel seen, heard, and understood. Lizzy's also partnered with her best friend Jessica Alba to host the Roku channel's Honest Renovations, a television series where the duo gives deserving families renovations that take their homes from cluttered and chaotic to functional and fabulous, while getting real about the difficulties of parenting. Keep a lookout for season 2, which is launching soon. Woo. The episodes are amazing, by the way, and the show's amazing. Tell the people what we talked about today.
Lizzy's energy is just infectious. I just feel so lit up. You know when it's telling how you feel when someone leaves, and I just feel calm and happy and lit up and
so much
soul
energy.
Nourished. I have energy. It was such a refreshing conversation, and she's so clearly at home at Thoughts May Vary, because even her unpacking life and everything she said and her perspective, I felt so seen. And I just adore her. We talked about, of course, a lot about motherhood and entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. She has a really cool, grounded perspective on the balance of that, and being balance, the not balance of that, and being a multi-hyphenate and following your soul-aligned path, and how you show up in different ways, how you lean on community. She's just really, like you said, such a cool expander in all those areas, and we really dug into that. We also touched on grief. She's lost her mother, and so I had to get into that. We talked about miscarriage. We talked about how rejection is a choice. We talked a lot about choice in general, and the way you can choose to respond to move through the world. I just find her she's who I want to be when I grow up. She's who I wish would adopt me. We are fully in love with her now. I mean, we were before we even met her, but this was such a wonderful conversation that I think any woman at any stage of life or motherhood will just really resonate with. And just feel good listening to.
Feel seen. We circled so much back to just finding the light and following that light.
Yeah.
There were so many amazing nuggets that I was just mentally taking notes while she was talking, and just wish I could call her for everything. She's amazing.
The perfect first guest for our studio.
I know, this was our first guest.
She really was such an honor to have her be the first one. It really set up a gorgeous precedent for us. So thank you for that, Lizzy.
It was a great time. We're so grateful for you, Lizzy. Thank you for coming on, and we hope that you guys enjoy the episode.
Enjoy the app.
I'm so glad you're here.
I am too.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
This is exciting.
No,
We're
so
thrilled.
exciting. I always think that you meet people at the right time, and it was so funny when I was talking to Danielle and you came up, because I've followed you for some time.
Oh, wow.
And I've kept up with your work over the years, and you have been a really cool expander for me in terms of what it looks like to be a working mom.
Wow.
I grew up with an entrepreneurial mom and also an immigrant mom. So it was, I saw a lot of what she had to go through, but she also kept a lot of it hidden, as moms do.
Yeah.
To protect us.
Of course.
And it's been really cool watching you, the way that you speak on social media and the way you speak about motherhood, because I haven't always been able to make that connection of the cozy mom who's super involved in her kids' lives and is really maternal, like whatever that word means, and also like kills it and is super entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
And so it's been really, not that my mom didn't do, Mom, I love you so much. You did amazing. But it's been, shout out to Mom. But yeah, I'm really grateful for how open you are about your journey.
Thank you. I will receive that. But I love this whole cozy mom. I don't think I've heard cozy mom.
My sister started saying that years ago, and I just like really took it.
I like that. I mean,
cozy
mom, soft life, cozy mom.
Yeah,
I like that.
Make some merch.
Yeah, right? I'm like,
please.
Look, brain is churning like, oh, I kind of like the cozy mom. Okay.
I can't wait to see the sweatshirt.
Exactly. Ding, 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 ding. I like it.
Like you said, like in the part of your audience that's on the precipice of motherhood, like that's fully us. And I know you not as soon as me, but it's been so top of mind.
Recently married.
Recently married. Like,
really?
So I've been like diving in.
You're ready.
So it's like, it's just the timing is always kismet. Like,
but
I'm
are you
so
afraid?
Ready. Yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not afraid emotionally.
Okay, good.
I'm afraid in terms of like, we really have different opinions on this, which we love and respect and talk about all the time. But our opinion about where you're at in career and where motherhood intersects is very different. Like she wants to be at a different point. I want to grow with them.
Right.
And it's the opposite of how I was raised.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to get into it all. Because even when you lose a parent, you want them earlier. So like, I want them now. I want all the time.
It's true. It's true. Your perspective is a little different.
Yeah. So many of our questions are just like, please let us to the inside of your brain because we want to be you.
Oh my God.
Like,
oh my God.
Let me just read. But I like that because I think there's a curiosity that you both are coming into this conversation with from very different viewpoints and different life experiences, which brings you to a different point of what you think you're ready for and what life will just happen and you find yourself having to just shift and figure it out.
Oh yeah.
And so there's a nice little angle there, right? What's interesting about it is that I lost my mom later.
Right.
And I know we'll get into this.
Right.
But I totally hear what you're saying, and looking back on it, you're absolutely right. I wish I had that viewpoint coming into parenthood and motherhood, but I came into it like you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's a very interesting dynamic because now I share that philosophy with you.
Yeah.
But at that point of life, I was like you. I was like, I got things to check off before I make this happen.
Yeah.
And life, but we'll share. We'll share.
We start every single episode by asking our guests, what are you currently unpacking? It can mean whatever.
Yeah. I'm unpacking life. I mean, that's it. I think it's as simple as that. I'm unpacking life constantly, continuously. It's an ongoing process. It doesn't stop. I think unpacking is something that it's almost like you have to learn to live in the movement of it, right? Because we're always unpacking something. It could be just your morning. It could be anything that happened this morning where me and my husband, got into an argument, or my oldest daughter was like, no, thank you on your lunch you made today. Or I don't know. I mean, I can unpack all of it all day, but I think you're constantly unpacking. And I think unpacking is the way to growth. And so as long as you are continuously not stressing, not getting into a mental spiral, but constantly wanting to grow, wanting to say, hey, this made me feel this way. I ain't like that. I'm moving on. This made me feel this way. I like that. Yeah. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to do that again. And constantly unpacking where your challenges are and where you feel good and where you don't is our only way to growth.
Yeah.
Right? Lizzie, welcome to the fucking show. Because, my God, like that's the entire ethos of what this is.
Yeah.
It's like the work never ends.
Never ends.
And like, yes, looking at the thing is so important, but we talk about this a lot. You have to hold space for the looking and the, it feels bad, and feel through it. And then what the fuck are you going to do next?
That's
like,
right.
let's make the choice. Let's move on. Let's keep going. Like you are very at home here.
Yeah,
You're
feel
very
at home.
here.
I feel at peace.
Good.
Okay, we're going right back into this conversation because I think in terms of this balance of entrepreneurial motherhood, we've heard you say how that no one gets a job done like a working mom, and how you have kind of that special perspective unlocked of like balance and priorities and time management.
Yeah.
And you mentioned wishing that you could give women that perspective before they enter.
I'm telling you.
And we're on the brink of that. So
I know you are.
give me some of that. Like what can I learn from you from that?
It's just that there is something that unlocks in you when you become a mother that I wish I could have given my pre-mother 20-year-old self. And I say it all the time. I'm like, I would have been a beast
Yeah.
if I had a little piece of what I have now at that time, before all the responsibilities, before having to necessarily take care of the mental, the physical, the emotional of a whole nother human being. And I have 3 of them, 3 whole other human beings, plus my husband, plus myself. Like before all of that, if you had just an ounce of what that motherhood gives you at this point, oh, y'all, come on. I mean, I wish I could bottle it up and write a book. But I think if anything, I could tell you this. The stresses aren't worth the stresses. So and look, I think life experiences teach you that too, not just motherhood.
Totally.
Motherhood just happens to be a life experience for many people that puts them in that place.
It's like compounded.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But life experiences, losing a parent, a parent, or having someone close to you with an illness, or you yourself with an illness, or whatever it is, life experiences also make you realize this. The stresses are not worth the stress. And so I think if I could give my 20-year-old self anything, it would have been multitask like you don't even believe. It's very important, and it's a skill that is worth having. Don't stress out on the things that you cannot control. People say it, but it's really true. If you can't control how to change that stress, then it's not worth you stressing out over it. Now, many stresses you can control. You can control your job. You can always look for a new one. You can do other things now with social media. You can find other avenues, things that you're creative about, passionate about. Health, you can get healthier. You can eat better. You can take your physicals and your doctor's appointments seriously. You can make wellness more part of your routine. It doesn't always have to cost money, but all these things, right? Whatever you can change that stresses you out, change. The people who you surround yourself with, extremely important. That's the energy that you're giving yourself. So whoever you are putting in your orbit and who you are choosing to enter into your world, that's the energy you're choosing to give yourself. So understand that matters. So anything that you can change it. Anything you can't, deuces.
Feels like a big picture lens.
It's a big picture lens.
Like it just allows you to be really zoomed out in those kind of like quotidian, minor, detailed moments.
That's right. That's exactly right.
I mean, it's also, you have less time, I would say, when you're managing all of these people and yourself and your career and all these other things. So it's like, why are you going to waste the time that is precious on shit that you frankly just can't control?
Priorities fall in line.
Priorities fall in line. I really want to dig into entrepreneurship for a second with you. And I've also lived in New York, done that thing, started the career there. We did that.
You were 10 years, right?
I was there for like almost 10 years.
You have the New Yorker
badge.
Grind.
Oh, I know. I feel like it's a grind, but I will say it till the end of time. It is where I found my feet. It just really is. Like I found my footing in New York. Like I was like, okay, this is the hustle and bustle. This is how I get things done. This is what this is what life is. It's moving fast. You have to take care of yourself. You got to figure out how you're going to pay rent that week. You know what I mean? That month. Like, where's my food and my meal coming from? You got to figure out, are you cooking? Learn how to cook then. It's just, you have to figure it out. And so New York was that place for me.
New York is great. I tell anytime somebody that's starting out their career tells me, or at any point they have the itch to go there, I'm like, do it.
Yep. I say
do it, because that was the best. My mom always calls it, she was like, that was your master's degree.
Yes.
And
on life.
Like truly. And it was. I learned, especially being an intern and then being an assistant and like the industry that I was in, it was like, it was such a special, unique time. And what I found really interesting moving to LA was the New York dynamic was like, get as good as you can at like the thing that you do. Grind. Here's your craft, and you do it, and you do it well.
Right.
And when I decided to become a freelancer, I very quickly was like, I'm not staying in New York to do this. I'm going to go to LA. Because I already felt that energy shift of knowing what I had heard about LA and knowing that people here, it's more like, why isn't your hand in 45 different pots at the same fucking time? Like, what are you doing?
It's true.
Very different.
It's very different.
And I'm wondering,
multitask.
Multitask. And I'm wondering, as someone who's lived all of it and done all of it, and also has many successful businesses that you take part in, I always think about like the concept of master of none. And I think about it a lot for myself. And I wonder for you, what is sort of that line of wanting to lean into that multi-hyphenate title? And then when you start to feel like, okay, now I'm just distracted and I have my hand in too many things and I'm not getting anything done effectively. You ever feel that?
It's a good distinction.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, but I'm also the type of person where if, like, I get bored easily too.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Okay, did that. That's done. Now what? Like, what are we doing next? Bye, on to the next. I think that when it comes to being a multi-hyphenate, for me, it wasn't something that I set out to be. It was something that kind of just happened through the experiences of life that took me there. And I was open to that path.
Yeah.
So it's almost like I was recently listening to something that Oprah said, and they were like, how did you even dream of something this big for yourself? And she was like, I didn't. She was like, I didn't know that I could even become this big of anything, or whatever she was saying. And I'm paraphrasing like a lot. Like a lot.
We get the sense.
But
Yeah.
she was like, I just followed the light. Right. And like for her, that touched me, because I was like, I get that. Like you follow the doors that are open, and you follow what you love and what makes sense, not necessarily putting a title or a pressure on it. Right. And so that's what I did. I followed the experiences. So for me, it started off as a model. And I always wanted to model when I was like in high school and when I was younger, and I found an opportunity and I was like, done. I want to travel the world. It's an amazing experience. And so I modeled and I loved it. And then it came a point where I was like, hey, I like talking.
Like, I like to actually say what I'm thinking.
I like using my voice.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, I'm going to go into acting. And I acted, and that was cool. And that was great. And then it got to a point where I was like, and then I had my daughter, my first daughter. And I was just like, I think I like me. Like, I want to talk. I want to now use my voice for me and the things that I want to talk about and the things that I want to share and the things that are important to me. And so then it started to move into a little bit more of like hosting and TV expert and like all that type of stuff. And then that took me into each phase took me into something else. And what I learned over time, because I'm so wise now, is that every experience leads you to the next. And as long as you're open, then they compound on each other. So now I can say that I'm a multi-hyphenate because I've been able to walk in all these different experiences, but it's not because I necessarily set out to do 50 things at one time. I was like, oh, you know what, girl, I'm gonna be this, I'm gonna do that, I wanna do that. And when I jump back into that, and then I'm gonna do it, it was just that I was like, okay, you know what? This interests me right now. And now I can take all the experience that I had from modeling, being comfortable in my own skin, knowing what the word no really feels like and being cool with that. All right. Knowing what a camera and how my angles and my lighting and all that, all that stuff. Learning how to put on my makeup and be presentable. Take that to TV. Yeah. All right. So now I'm in TV and I can tell you know what I'm saying? So learning, also meeting a ton of different people all the time from different countries across the board and being able to have conversations and relate to people. Now I'm going to take that to the next step. So it's almost like everything that you're learning, it's compounding to get you to the next point of your life of where you're supposed to be. But it's just following the light. Yeah. Right. It's just following whatever path that interests you, that you're meant to be on. It's not about being a multi-hyphenate, but in the end, you probably will be. Right. Because you probably won't have the same passion your entire life. And if you do, that's amazing too, because you're probably really great at it. Right. Because you focused in on that one thing. Right. But if not, then the experience you have had will compound into the next to get you where you are.
That is such a good perspective, and one that I'm like, yes, tell me more, because I struggle with that a lot of feeling. I used to work at Architectural Digest and I started my career in magazines, and before then I was in fashion. And when I chose to leave such a comfortable big name, I was like, if I'm going to be a freelancer, I better be a fucking freelancer and I better like do this well. Right. And so I struggle with that, where I'm like, okay, I have the podcast, but I want to do this and I'm doing that. And, I'm still writing and and I'm like trying. And someone the other day said to me, she was like, why are you trying to live the life that you're going to be living when you're 45, when you're 27? What are you doing?
Interesting.
Yeah. And I was like, right. She was a psychic. So I was like, take all my money. Take all my money, because you're correct. Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's a perspective that I think a lot of our listeners will really, really relate to.
Yeah, but also it's this. Aren't you happy that you want to do all those things?
Oh, yeah.
Aren't you happy that you have that ambition and that interest to be like, yeah, I want to be the freelancer. I want to, like, all these things. Imagine if you weren't like that. Yeah. Imagine if, like, you know what? I'm cool. Podcast good. It's great. I have a good time doing it. I'm straight with that. And that was it.
If that'd be nice too.
But like, if that was it, and then that was it. But you're not. You have the ambition to do all the other things. And so I think there's finding the joy in that too. Totally. The ambition part of it is the exciting part, Because when you hit 45 and you do have it all done, it's going to be a different type of muscle that you're stretching at that point.
Yeah.
A different muscle is going to be now you're managing. Now the details are super important. Now it's like, all right, the invoicing and my business manager this and my accountant, and it's going to shift. Like your day-to-day shifts as all those things become under your belt. So right now, if it is the ambition and the excitement, lean into that. It's the excitement, right? Because it's like, they say it's the journey that's the fun part. Because once you get there, you're already there.
And then the goalpost moves.
And then it moves.
Yeah.
And then you got to figure out what next, right?
Yeah. Right.
But the journey is the exciting part. And if you can lean into that part of it, then now you're onto something. Because now you're not waiting for when you get to that 45-year-old or whatever. So you're now having fun along the journey. And now we're like, all right, let's live. Let's live.
Yeah. You've helped me with that a lot.
Well, I was going to say, I want to get granular about that for 1 second, because when you talk about following the light and being open and pivoting, like that lands on a soul level. I think I'm really good at that. Like I've pivoted, I go with the flow. Like if it's going to change, boom, let's do it. Let's just go this. As long as I know which way we're going, I'll move, I'll change. That's cool. But we do get a lot of questions in terms of, like, I'm wondering what your cues are for knowing you're listening to that. Because I think some people maybe don't have the trust muscle built up to like understand when that's, am I just flip-flopping or is this really soul aligned? And so like, what are kind of your cues to know that you really are listening to that greater than self? Like, this is where my path is going.
When you're so afraid of it.
Ooh. That's an answer we haven't gone. Okay, tell me more about that.
When you're so afraid of it, when you're so afraid of that shift, when you're so afraid of, it's not just like the excitement, but it's like a mix. It's a mix of fear and excitement and nervousness and, anticipation and anxiousness, whatever. Like when that hits, that's when you know you have to move towards it.
That's the thing.
And when it's something you just can't stop thinking about. It's recurring. It's coming back to you and back to you. You're sitting in a coffee shop and damn, it hits you again. And you're sleeping and it comes up in a dream. And you're talking to someone and they say it. It's like when all that starts happening and you just are hearing it, it means something. It really does mean something. I don't believe that, life is full of coincidences. There's meaning behind it, right? There's a reason for everything. And wherever we're meant to be sitting here right now. This is no accident. I'm meant to be sitting across from you two having this conversation in this moment right now. And whatever else happening on in the world, that's meant to be happening, right? But right now we're meant to be doing this together. There's no coincidences. And so I think that's when you know. When you can see that and start seeing the signs for it, that's when you know that a shift has to be made. I don't know. I mean, that's how I've always done it,
No, that lands. I can feel the times in my life when I've done that, and that's the energy right before.
Right.
Because it's almost that fear of like admitting to yourself how big your dreams are and knowing you're worth or deserving of it. And that's a really hard thing to do.
That part.
That's a really hard thing to do.
And thinking that you can live up
comes.
to the expectation.
Exactly.
That's right.
I mean, what did we just say? We just recorded a solo episode the other day where we were talking about our careers. And when I was applying for my first like real job after college, I was interviewing to be the editor-in-chief's assistant at AD, which was the job that I got.
Right.
And I told Meadow, I was like, I've never told anyone this, but I almost didn't take that interview because I was so scared. I was so scared. And it's because that growth happens in that moment of discomfort.
That's right.
So that's a really good guiding light for people.
That's right.
Hey everyone, popping in to say thank you to all of the amazing people who listen and watch this podcast. We're so grateful for each and every one of you and truly cannot say thank you enough for tuning in every single week.
In order for us to keep bringing you all great conversations and continue building our community and raising the bar, we're asking you for some simple and free support. Subscribe to our channel, follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts, and keep up with us on social at Thoughts May Vary Pod.
And if you're looking to dive even deeper, you can join our exclusive Patreon community and download Co-Create, our digital manifestation journal filled with over 150 prompts to help guide your curiosity and unlock new layers of yourself.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, I love that. Okay, wait. Speaking of AD, I think it's so interesting how it's really simple and easy for people to dismiss anything that's beautiful, anything, fashion, design, whatever, as very frivolous. And with design in particular, I think it's so interesting because we just underestimate the impact that someone's home can have on their mental health. And you obviously have a show.
Yep. And we talk a
Renovations.
lot about that.
And you talk a lot about that.
Yeah.
And I've seen the episodes and I've seen the impacts that it has on those people. What was it that led you to want to start that show?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, for me, traveling as a model and seeing how so many different types of people live in different countries and different family structures and dynamics. And for me, that always influenced me. And then my mom always, like, we moved around quite a bit, I would say. And wherever we were, she just made a house a home. And that was always something so comforting for me that she had the skill set to do. And so when I became a mom, that was also very important to me to always just make a house a home. I don't like anything too sterile or anything that can't be lived in or can't be, like, you know, bounced upon because with kids, it's a part of life and that's just what happens.
It's also cozy.
It's also cozy.
Also cozy.
Cozy mom.
Circling back.
There we go. I'm going to take that one. T-shirts coming.
No, true.
Soon. And so, you know, I think that was like a really big part of me. So when Jess and I got together and we started, it was really like during COVID that we really leaned into starting to remake spaces together. And so first we started with like our studio house or whatever. We did that whole thing. And then we did her parents' house. We did that.
Oh my God, how fun.
And then we were like, yo, this would be really cool to do for other people. So at first we were going to do it for just people that we knew, like, you know, just our friends or whatever, like blah, blah. And basically all the networks were like, no, we don't want to see your friends' houses.
They're like, do that on your own time.
Like,
right.
Nada. So, you know, I had this idea, like, what if we do it for families? You know what I mean? Where we come in with the experience of what we have, both being mothers of 3, having full lives, full careers, right? But all that experience and kind of help to transform these people's homes to help make it better for their life and their situation. And so when we started casting for the show, we found that that's exactly what it was. The home was sometimes in full chaos because they had 4 kids under 4, or they had 2 sets of teenager twins, right? That were like taking over. And so we wanted to come in and not just make it aesthetically beautiful, but also extremely functional for these families. And so that's how it kind of came about.
Was there a lesson that you learned throughout that process, just about meeting so many different people?
With the show?
Yeah.
I learn a lesson every single time with each family. It's amazing. But that's also the type of person I am.
I was just going to say, you're the type of person to find
I'm
that.
like, I
you're
love,
looking for
like,
it.
I'm looking for it. Like, I'm
Mhm.
looking for the story. I'm looking for the lesson. I'm looking for what did you, like, what is happening here? And what you find is this. Each one is different, but universally, especially as parents, we never make enough time for ourselves. We never set aside places for ourselves to take that time. And everything about kids just takes over, whether they are 4 or whether they are 14. It just is reality. And I think as parents, it's hard for us to start separating those spaces in our homes, especially after COVID, when everyone was home and everybody's space became everybody's space. I think it's hard to separate those spaces, but then it's also really, really hard to make the separate spaces for ourselves. And I think that's a relatable concept that so many parents can understand that we're tapping into.
Yeah. COVID is also just such a poignant time to lean into that because we know, like researchers say, aesthetics are neuroprotective.
Yeah.
Like being able to sit and have a moments of presence to be like, oh, wow, a leaf, beautiful. Like that sends signals to our brain
When has that
we're
happened?
safe enough to look at that. You know what I mean?
You
Like,
met out
when
every
you-
single day.
Exactly.
For like,
I like truly am enjoying myself.
She got a dog thinking it would like make her work out, and she got a wiener dog that walks literally
Its
0.5 miles an
legs are
hour.
2 inches.
So I'm like, you get to stare at the leaves on the ground because every time you walk,
She
Mahal,
stops and smells flowers.
Yeah.
She really does.
There you
But
go.
do you know the concept of like having the second to like appreciate beauty means you're safe enough in the moment
absolutely.
to have the like wherewithal to look at
hierarchy
that.
of needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well,
Exactly.
that even you just being in the moment.
Right.
Exactly.
Even that,
The
just
privilege
alone,
of presence.
just even just being in the moment is a new concept in itself as a parent, right?
Yeah.
Like just staying in the moment. I think that's something I'm working on this year. I will say that.
Oh, cool.
So unpacking life, yes, to answer your first question of this episode. But that is something I'm working on, to stay in the moment this year. That was one of my New Year's resolutions, or like coming into the new year thing.
Intentions.
Intentions. We're just like staying in the moment. What does that feel like? To not always have to think about what's coming next or what is on the calendar next week or all those things. I want to stay right here and really soak up this moment in time, because it's not guaranteed.
It's also the secret to make those happen.
Exactly.
You can only make those happen if you're fully here now to get you there.
That's right.
It's so true. I think I want to circle back, because I think something you said, you always look for the range in people, like the range of families and the cultures and the modeling experience. And it's very clear that you've translated that to the Cool Mom Code. Like the range of what it means to be a mother.
That's right.
And I think about, I have a very good friend that was an abortion doula, and I've had many friends go through abortions, and like the talk of like having a kid and losing it, and the different aspects and identities that it could take to be motherhood. And I've been thinking about that a lot, as you know, of wanting to be a mom soon. And I feel lucky that I have like my mom and aunties who were very open about miscarriage.
Oh, I love
and like,
that,
even if you miscarry, you're a mom, and like that's still a part of you. And
that's right.
that it changes you, or maybe gives you that perspective in a way. And I believe you said your first time you were pregnant was a miscarriage.
Yeah.
What would you have wanted to know? Because I still think we're so in the dark about that publicly.
You know what? I think it is an experience that so many women have that they don't talk about. But it's more common than what we even think.
Isn't it 1 in 5?
I don't know what the stat is, but it's very common.
It's a lot.
Especially nowadays. It's very common. I remember having the miscarriage, and the miscarriage was like later too. The week before, I remember going home to my husband's family's house, and we had basically told everybody. And it was like right before you're supposed to tell everybody. And we supposed to tell everybody. And so we told everybody. We were like, oh, it's only a week, like no big deal. And we told everybody. And we were so happy and so joyous. And I remember the next week we came back to LA, and it happened, and I was devastated. I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe we have to call everybody back and tell them and blah, blah. Like I can't imagine. And I remember calling my grandma. She was still alive. And I called my grandma. I said, Grandma, I feel so devastated. I just feel so like, why did my body of all bodies? And I thought I was healthy. And over the phone, I just can imagine what her face was. But over the phone, it was quiet. And then all of a sudden she said, Lizzie, you come from good stock. You and Issa, my husband, will go on to have many more healthy babies. And you hear me when I say it. And I was like, okay. But in that moment, I believed her.
Yeah.
I believed her.
Yeah.
There was no part of my body that doubted what this woman just told me.
No, you felt it.
Because she knows.
I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt like she knew. I felt like she was seeing something that I hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
And I believed her. And not, a year later, I had my first healthy pregnancy, which is, listen, that's a gift. It doesn't always happen that way. But I just think there's something in that moment. So what I wish I would have known, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything that prepares you for something like that, because what you feel like a failure. You feel like it's something on your body that you didn't do right. You ask the doctors immediately, well, what did I do wrong? Did I not take something I was supposed to be taking? Was I not healthy enough? Did I not eat the right things, or did I exercise too much or not enough? Like you immediately think it's something on you, and it's not. It's really not. It's something that happens. It's something that comes through and it leaves, and it's a part of some women's journey, and that's okay, but it's not on you. It's not because of something you did. And that was something that I had to settle into, but I don't think there was anything that could prepare me for that. So there's not anything that I wish I'd known. I'm very thankful that after it happened, I had someone who I believed in tell me that it was going to be okay. And I believed her.
I don't know if this is a weird comparison to make, but like as you're speaking, and it feels like a part of grief that I'm familiar with, but the context of mine is knowing someone that dies by suicide. And like that same level of like, is there responsibility here on me or no? And like it's kind of like that sticky part of grief where you learn to parcel out like what's yours and what's someone else's story. And like
Yeah.
if that, you know,
That's
soul
true.
wasn't even ready to come down, they were like, it's not that one.
That's
not
right.
yet. Like
That's
that
right.
wasn't me.
Not yet.
You know?
Or
So-
you know what? You weren't ready for it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This
But it
wasn't
does-
meant to be your
It is
time
that
yet.
sticky part of grief though that like people don't touch on, which is so fair because it's so hard.
Yeah.
But man, like the only way you understand how to move through it is when people are open and tell you and
That's
you
right.
believe them.
That's
Yeah.
right.
You know?
Because I
Okay.
mean, even you saying, as you were talking, I was like, oh, well, the lesson is like, it's not your fault. But you're still going to think that.
You're going to feel
You're
that.
going to feel that.
Yeah.
We can't, as many times as we get on the internet and people start sharing their stories, women are still, I'm sure, going to feel that in some
I
way
think
because we
it's-
feel responsibility for everything.
Yeah, we do. But I think that is the immediate feeling and reaction, but it can't be the lasting
Can't be the response.
feeling and
Reaction, but
reaction.
no response.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It can't be what lasts.
Right.
That can't be the feeling that
Yeah.
you go back to. It can be the immediate because you can't control how your body immediately
Right,
reacts
totally.
to something and how you immediately think in your first moment, but it can't be what you hold on to move forward.
Yeah.
That can't be that. So, you know, yes, will
It's a
we
good
probably
distinction.
always naturally feel that way? Sure. But it just can't be what we decide is right or is correct in our feeling as we move forward.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That
a
can't be
beautiful
it.
example of following the light because it's
Mhm.
like I can have a reaction, I can hold space for that reaction, but then how I respond is my choice.
Mhm.
And that's
Right,
like such
that
a
part.
beautiful example of in real
Mhm.
time, like how you move through what is soul aligned for you.
Yeah. Listen, I tell my kids all the time, one thing that I'm constantly trying to ingrain in them is what can you control?
Yeah.
And I tell them every day, even when they're dealing with little spats or with other little kids, you know, on the playground, what can you control?
And your
What could you
reactions
control
are
in that
part of
moment? What your reaction is what
Yeah.
you can control.
Yeah.
Right.
I can control whether or not I inflicted harm upon someone, whether I hit him on top of the head.
Yeah.
But then I can also control how I reacted when he hit me.
Mhm.
Or I can control how I reacted if I did nothing and he hit me or he took something away from me, right? I can control, you only can control yourself. And if you can maintain that and figure out how to control yourself, your emotions, your feelings, what your takeaways are, how you look at the world, how you view things, right? Then that's part of this unlocking process. That's part of the growth process. But you have to take responsibility for what you can control.
Your kids are probably so cool, but they're gonna grow
I
up to
know.
be even cooler because a lot of people are not raised with that mentality, and society is not set up for that mentality. I think we
revolve around my triggers.
we live in a
You can't
society
trigger me.
that exactly
Mm-mm.
that tells you like, well, first of all, it's completely individualistic, so we're not thinking about
The collective.
the collective at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. We don't live in a society where it's I guess encouraged. We live thinking that the world is happening to us.
Yeah.
That's like the phrase I'm trying to find.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
lot of
know.
people do.
You know, I think that minorities, and I think that I can speak from being a Black woman, raising Black children, I don't think we have the luxury
Absolutely.
of living in a space where we think the world is happening to us.
Mm.
That comes with a certain privilege, right? It comes with a certain like, it's all happening to me.
Yep.
Woe is me.
Woe is me.
Yeah.
It's all happening
Yeah.
to me.
Yeah.
And I just, my brothers and myself, we weren't raised that way.
Mhm.
My husband, his siblings were not raised that way.
Yeah.
My friends who are also Black, not raised that way. So wherever I have seen it in my community, we haven't been allowed to be raised that way. You take responsibility for your actions because you don't know how people are going to perceive you.
Mhm.
People may perceive you as the best, nicest in the world. But there's also a chance that people who don't even know you will judge you because of your skin color or because of what they think they know about you or from where you're from or your family structure, whatever it is. And so you don't have that luxury to think that woe is me. Oh, the world is happening to me. No, you have to take things in your own hands and control what you can control. The other things you let go of and you keep moving forward. That's it. You can cry when you need to cry. You can be sensitive when you need to be sensitive. But you are not allowed to live in a space constantly of feeling like you're the underdog.
Yeah.
You can't. You have to come from a space of, I own this. I own my space. I'm comfortable in my skin. This is how I present to the world. And this is how I am going to be. And that's okay for you to be that. It's okay for you to live in that confident space. It's okay for you to also be empathetic to others. That is okay. But you cannot live in a space of, woe is me, and the world is happening to me.
I'm the world's biggest victim.
We can't do it. We can't do it.
It's so, as you're talking, so many things. I just have my stepdad's voice in my head right now. Everyone in my family, but like all the parents, because parents are divorced, everyone's remarried, whatever. Everyone came from Cuba. They're all Cuban immigrants. They all left when they were babies.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting. We think about like in these different communities, like all the stigmatized conversations and mental health being one of the big ones. And I hear his voice sometimes being like, why are you getting so caught up on like the and I get frustrated and I'm like, cuz Javier, like XYZ, blah, blah, blah.
We love you, Javier.
And we love you, Javier. But it's so interesting because it's like, and I've, unpacked this type of work or whatever, but it's like my parents didn't have the, like you said, like the space to think that, the space to feel that. Because if you're looking at the hierarchy of needs, like they're not safe. Right. So why the fuck are they going to like think about how they feel?
Right.
Like they're not going to.
Right.
And so being raised with like half that of like, yes, own who you are. Don't be like the world's greatest victim because you don't have space to do that. And then also, no, but now we're raising you, allowing you to talk about your feelings and to talk about that. And then also being raised, I'm like, oh, the freaking
layers.
This and this and this. And then also being like, yeah, I'm Latina, but I'm completely white passing.
Yeah.
So like the world doesn't look at me differently in that way. And so I don't have to think about those things. It's really interesting Meadow and I were just talking about like, if we all just understood a little bit more of each other's stories and put each other in one another's perspective and choose a little bit more, maybe this world wouldn't be filled with so many fucking assholes.
Yeah, we were literally just talking about this
girl, that's how I live though. I'm telling you, everyone comes with a story. Everyone comes with a perspective. This is my feeling. Regardless of who you are, regardless of what your beliefs are, regardless of how you live your life, you come with a story. You come with a backstory. Now, I might not agree with your choices. I might not agree with how you live, but I do have to understand on a level that you come with your own story, that you and I are meeting in a moment of time where I come with my own story and you come with your own story on how you got there. And however we meet is fine. And whatever our interaction is, that's fine too. But if I always try and understand, like that person comes with something. They don't just show up out of nowhere. They come with a story just like I do, right? And I think that's what I try and teach my kids, because what I think it helps build is empathy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Empathy towards others, empathy towards other people's experiences, other people's lifelong lessons that they've lived, or anything really. But I think a little piece of that is helpful in how we move forward with each other, because like you said, it's like I think everyone's so wrapped up in their own. They're so wrapped up in their own that we miss it. We miss that. We miss that piece a lot.
Well, it also removes the woe is me.
Yes.
If you understand that they come with their own vessel of experiences and perspectives and whatever, like you realize, oh, it's not about me because this is how they were raised and this is whatever they went through to get them to this point. So it helps when you approach with that curiosity. It helps depersonalize something that's like, you're showing your bias, you're not showing who I am.
That's right.
And that really helps create that space, which the whole time, speaking of space, like the whole time you're talking, I'm kind of shocked. Like, I've known you 20 minutes, kind of shocked that your intention was mindfulness, because everything you're saying, like all the perspectives you hold really require a level of being here to see it that way.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of shocked that that's something you feel like you need to work on.
I mean, you know what it is though? It's more of like, the career aspect of it, right? It's more, fair. Well, it's a little bit of both. I mean, it's just more of like, you're constantly moving so fast. Yeah. Everything's moving so fast. Once I leave this, it's on to a next, right? It's like, something's always happening. And especially in a space where you're like working, the kids have this, you're juggling this, the house needs this, like both husband needs that. But like, there's so many different parts that are constantly moving. The challenge is to stay present in the moment. I find myself often with my kids, I try and shut down after a certain point, right, of the day. At a certain point of the day, I try and shut it off. I try and not look at my phone. I've been trying this really hard too, putting my phone somewhere else in the house. Yeah. And so I can just be there with the kids. But a lot of times that's like 6 o'clock, right? Like where I'm finally shutting off. So fine, 6 o'clock over there. Well, now I'm in homework mode. I'm in cook mode. I'm making dinner for the family. I might have an event that night. So I might also be getting ready to go at the exact same time. But there's literally so many different people. Do you know this is happening tomorrow? What about this? Mom, did you do this? You know, like, oh my God, what's this math homework? And I'm like cooking. I'm like, I need to read it. I need to read the math homework. You know, it's just so much stuff that I'm trying to say, okay, even in that moment itself where it feels so chaotic, enjoying that.
Yeah.
Because there will come a point in time when they go to college and I'll be in the house just with that dude.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm gonna be like, you're the only one here.
You're like, now what?
Now what are we supposed to do? I'm supposed to talk to
quiet.
you the whole time?
Yeah.
And it won't be as chaotic and it won't be as like many moving parts. And I'm going to miss it like my mom did, right? I'm going to miss it. I'm going to miss that movement. And so I'm trying to like enjoy that too, because that's a part.
You just brought up something that I wanted to talk to you about, which I don't think we hear moms talk about this a lot. And so I'm like, expose it in your own way of what works for you. Because every parent is different. Yeah. But I'm curious if you have, or what your approach is, I guess, to what happens when it comes to prioritizing your work and your kids. And like, if there is the recital and the game and the event and the thing you're hosting and it's all happening in the same time, like how do you manage, you're going to have to miss something.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
I like how you didn't ask this question with the word balance. Because I think that's important. Because I don't believe in balance. Yeah. The answer to the question is that, you miss some stuff. Yeah. You know, and you take that L. I'm sorry, baby, I fucked up on that. You know what I mean? I don't know. You take that L. I think that, listen, you can't be everywhere at once, but you have to. This is why community is so important, though. This is why building community is so important and having the people that you really rely on. If that's grandparents, amazing. If that's your spouse, amazing. If that's aunties, which I had a lot of, amazing. If that's your siblings who come in as uncles, aunties, amazing, right? It's building that community too who can show up when you can't show up. Because for the child, it's very important to have you there. Don't get me wrong, you can't miss everything. But they also just want to know that their support system is present. Yeah. Like my daughter has a play. If I can't make every performance, I need to also know that someone in her community is showing up for her.
Speaking of community and speaking of it takes a village and people that show up when you can't be there. Obviously, I want to get into grief with you. Yeah. You lost your mother 2 years ago and my heart goes out to you so much.
Thank you.
I lost my dad at 17 and my partner lost his mom at 10. Oh, so that's part of the reason why, one, we really could like connect over that. Like the first night we admitted we were in love to each other, we basically talked about dead parents all night.
Wow. Oh, I'm sorry though, but yeah.
Same. Yeah. But it's such a beautiful thing when you find that community. And then, but I think it's so poignant when you're on the precipice of having kids, of thinking about that lack and that aspect.
I know.
However, one of the reasons I'm so excited to have kids is to see my dad in them and like see how that lives on. So I'm curious, like what part of your kids hold aspects of your mom, or where do you see them and her in them?
I was lucky because my mom had built really deep relationships with each one of my children. Cool. So I was very, very lucky.
They know her.
They know her. And they still talk. They talk about her all the time.
That's amazing.
They mention her. They have dreams, you know, about her.
Yeah. I love that. She's hanging out with them. Like the veil is thin. She's hanging out with them.
I will say something. I've never said this ever out loud and not on a podcast. But there were 3 things that happened the night my mom passed. I didn't want to tell my kids because this was like a Wednesday. I didn't want to tell my kids because I wanted them to go to school on Thursday and not be in so much pain and uncomfortable with the day. I wanted to just tell them on Friday so we could grieve together throughout the weekend. So my mom passed on a Wednesday at 5 o'clock. The sun was setting. I remember looking at the clock exactly at that moment I was with her. And I came home later that night from the hospital, and I was talking to my husband and fine, we went to sleep and we woke up Thursday morning and each one of my kids individually came in and said something to me. So my son came in and said something about he'd had a dream where we fell off of a boat and I rescued him out of the water. And I was like, well, who was there, Khalik? And he said, just me and you, mommy. You've saved my life. My mom used to always tell me that because I was her only girl and we had a very special relationship. Not that she didn't with my brothers too,
No,
but
of course.
she used to always say, I saved her in so many ways. And I was like, that's weird, Gleek. But, oh, I'm here, buddy. I love you, blah, blah, blah. Then my middle came in and she said something about her hair. She's like, Mommy, I had the weirdest dream that someone was trying to cut my hair. And I was like, what? That's crazy. Because at the hospital the night before, I told my brothers, I said, I kind of just want to cut a piece of her hair because I always loved my mom's hair. My mom's hair had this beautiful curly hair and I always loved running my fingers through her hair. And I was like, I kind of just want to cut a piece of her hair. Is that weird? And I didn't do it because she hated me touching her hair.
Oh.
So I didn't do it. I was like, nope.
Like, I gotta respect it. Yeah.
Out of respect. Nope. I love you, Mama. I'm not going to do it. And so she came in talking about cutting a piece of her hair, my daughter. And I was like, okay. I looked at my husband. I said, this is starting to get
okay,
crazy.
3 for 3, here we go.
And then my oldest daughter came in. God, I don't even remember what she said. I think she said maybe that she just like had a dream. I have to ask my husband, but she had a dream about my mom or something like that. Now, mind you, none of them knew that my mom had passed at this point. And it just reaffirmed something in me that it's not like when someone dies, their body is gone, but there is a part of them that will always be with us. And I think that moment I looked up after my oldest came in. I looked at my husband. I was like crazy. I looked up and I was just like, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. You're always with me. You're still here. I hear you. And that was it. And from that moment, that gave me a lot of peace in the beginning of my grieving process.
Yeah.
That's
I know
beautiful.
we each have instances of losing people that are very similar to that. I'm thinking of your grandmother and my dad and like moments we've been through. But quick, I'm sorry if this is too much information we can cut out. Were you there when your mother passed?
Yeah, I was there.
I was there too. And I don't think I would be okay if I wasn't there.
I don't think I would be okay if I wasn't there, but in the same breath, it's a memory that repeats and I don't like it.
Yeah, I understand that.
Because it's not what they show in the movies.
No.
It's not this like peaceful thing that happens in their sleep. I mean, for my mom, she battled breast cancer, which had metastasized to her lungs.
Yeah.
So the sound is something I'll never forget.
Oh yeah.
Right. And so yes, I'm glad I was there. I'm so thankful that I could be in that moment. My brothers and I all were there. And it was something that I'm so glad that she had. However, it's painful reliving that.
Yeah.
You know?
I had a nice balance of that in terms of my dad had lung cancer, but had kind of recovered from it and had an accident and was in the hospital in and out of a coma for 55 days before he passed.
Wow.
But so those 55 days were like, I saw his body do different things and the death rattle and all the different stuff that was so scary, which made me be like, I can't be there when it happens. Like, this is the scariest thing ever. He wouldn't want me to be there. Like, I can't be there. And I was there, but the moment of the passing was calm and was like a Lifetime movie. So like I went through the 55 days of the scary part, but that moment was so, like, I just felt my whole body flood with warmth. I laughed. I was like, oh, you're still here. Like everything in me flooded with like, oh, I'm good. Like, it's okay. You're still here.
Yeah.
And then we both had instances kind of similar to your kids, different, of course, but like just the veil is so thin in that way. But I think.
Isn't that interesting how everyone's experience is so different though, right?
So different, but like
but universally.
When you're, every time a kid came in, like my whole body had chills. Like I feel that.
Yeah.
I feel that. And that's just like, part of, just the way that translates to motherhood. So that was her passing the torch to you.
Yeah.
Like,
it was
she
her,
saved her, you're saving him.
Yeah.
Like,
it was also for me, I always looked at it as it was her saying that she's still watching them.
Yeah.
She loved those kids.
No, fiercest guardian angel they can have.
It's just like that was comforting.
Oh,
because
totally.
in that loss, that also is something I had to mourn. That my kids wouldn't grow up the way I did with my grandmother. I grew up with my grandmother being a very integral part of my entire maturation as a woman.
Well, you called her at such a low. Like that was who you called.
Period.
Yeah.
She was my person.
Yeah.
And for them, that's how they started out. That my mom was their person. And so I had to mourn that too, that their childhood now would be different from what my childhood was. And that was
And
hard.
now I'm sure they do things where you're like, tell me you saw it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I did that the other day.
Yeah, did you? Yeah.
Other day I was in the kitchen. I was like, I know you saw that one.
Yeah.
Now I know you saw that one.
Did that.
I know you did. Yeah. So
that's the thing that I think about,
is
like, this is a weird way to say it, but I think about this a lot with my grandmother. Like, she passed when I was in the 5th grade. So I was like old enough, but it's like that age. And it was really sudden, and it was like, it was intense. It was intense.
Yeah.
And she's like my biggest guardian angel, and we all feel this. And so it's a weird thing to verbalize, but a beautiful like silver lining, I guess, of grief and of death is like I know that she's protecting me in ways that she could have never when she was here.
Totally.
And that's like the really
beautiful
part of it all.
Yeah, I agree. You know what I start seeing all the time is 11/11. Girl, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
All the time.
The
That's no coincidence either.
Yeah.
No,
none of it
That's
is.
no coincidence either.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No,
so
I see that
crazy.
shit all the time. I hear her. I see her. Like, the veil is
It's
so
a beautiful
thin.
thing. Yeah.
It's so beautiful because
It's a
you know
beautiful
that it's
once you get to that point. And you're able to see it, it's a beautiful thing.
listen, grief, you got to go through all the feelings
Oh, yeah.
to get to
ongoing.
that point of it.
It's
Absolutely.
ongoing.
But
I agree.
No, absolutely. It is. I just think about my mom in those moments. It was my mom's mom that passed. I mean, both my parents have lost their parents, but the death I'm talking about was my mom's mom, and it was just everything that night, like you said.
Well,
everything was for a reason.
Yeah.
Like she never let my sister and I sleep out. Both of us had sleepovers, but we were both with people who were like safe people. Like it was like my best friend whose mom is my mom's best friend.
Right, like
her
family
sister, like
friends. Yeah.
family friends, like all the
Aunties.
tias, like
Mhm.
all of that. My sister, same thing, like at someone safe's house. And it was in the middle of the night that my mom got a call. And speaking of community and aunties, I'm like, the livelihood of it all. Like, let's bring back the joy for a second. It's so, there's nothing like being raised in what you feel like is a strong community. And I've heard you talk about how you were really surrounded by your mom's, particularly female friends.
Yes.
And how that really impacted you as a mother.
Huge.
And I'm wondering how that has now impacted you as a mother who also has daughters.
Yeah.
Like, what lessons you learned from them?
You know, listen, I think it's everything because there's only so much that you can do as a mother. There really is. I mean, like, there's only, like, I am very close with my children, and my daughter and I have so many great personal conversations and share so much, but I can tell when she gets on the phone with like one of my female friends or FaceTimes one of my female friends, she gets giddy. Like, she gets giddy to like share it all. Yeah. So they FaceTime.
That's so cute.
You know, like a lot of them don't live here. And so she'll FaceTime them if she has like a basketball game or a test that she did amazing in, or she's excited about a play or whatever it is. They FaceTime, they talk, they go through it. And my girlfriends will sit on the phone with her, but
they're her girls too.
They will sit on the phone with her, but for like an hour or like, and I'm just like, you got time for this?
Well, they're not gonna
but
tell
it's
her
just,
no.
it's
like,
just,
you gave
but
me
it's
10 minutes,
exactly,
she gets out.
exactly. But you know what? I'm busy doing other things, so I'm like, okay, cool.
Like, keep it going.
You know, but I love that relationship because I think there's something very beautiful in being able for my daughter Nemo, who's my oldest, to have that other outlet besides just me to go to for female perspective, for emotional support, for all these things that I trust. Yeah. That's the key, that I trust, that I can also lean on and count on for them to tell her things that are in line with my value system and are in line with how I choose to parent her. And so that's where community is, right? It's not like she's going to an outside source where I'm like, I don't know what the hell they're going to tell this girl. You know, it's like someone who knows me, who's been through life experiences with me, who has supported me, who I have supported, and who can give advice that I know aligns with how we choose to live. And so, yeah, that's important. I stand by it. I really do. And also, I mean, I think it's also important to have those relationships for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Listen, people who are, and a lot of times it happens to be other women who are going through these life lessons with you at the same time, who can experience this journey with you and can deliberate and talk and express and all these things is important. It really is. That's why they say, like, even when you become a mom, you know, finding other mom friends. It's important because it's important for you to dialogue with people about all the things that you're going through and making sure that you realize that you're not alone. Hello, that's why the Cool Mom Code was born, right? That's why I founded that company, because it was important for me to allow other women to be able to have this community and hear these things so they weren't alone. Like, girl, let me tell you, it happened to me too. And this is happening to her too. And this isn't just you. And so finding that is valuable. Having that is valuable, because then what you begin to see is you're not alone, and that other people are experiencing this, and this is how they moved on, or this is how they got out of it, or this is how what they shifted and did, and blah, blah, blah. And so now you have ideas. It puts things in your orbit. And this is what I told you in the very beginning. Surrounding yourself with people who have your best interests in mind, who are like-minded, but who also put positive things in your world, because that's important. That's going to help you grow.
Right? It's also just setting her up for such a healthy perspective on love, because if she did put everything into you, who's to say that you wouldn't then put everything into a partner? Like, we talk about diversifying your support system and how, like, the things I'll go to for Gabby isn't the things I'll go to for you, or go to for my husband. And, like, that's normal and actually good. Like, one person can't be your everything. And the expectations of that. So, like, creating not only, like, showing an example of healing the sister wound and, like, female friendships and the power of that community, but then also setting you up for such a healthy perspective on love by doing that, and a diverse support system.
I love that.
Oh my gosh. Like, that can't go understated. That's so important.
But then also these women lifting you up to a point, right, where you also find it in yourself.
Yes.
Because that's what I got to a point where female relationships are amazing. And if you have a great support system, you are lucky. But there's also a place where you have to get to where you find it within.
Can't outsource.
And you can't outsource it. It can help you, and it can build you, and it can, support you. But the foundation of it has to come from within. It truly does. And so if this, like, listen, you're talking about a 12-year-old girl, right? She's in this formation period. This is her maturation process, right? This is her being a very young lady. This is the beginning of her young womanhood. If we can nourish that now, then yes, at some point she will be able to say, thank you, I love that, but I don't need that from this person. I have it within me. And that's what I'm trying to get to. So any husband, any friendship, even her siblings, right? They're all bonus. It's all a bonus. But the need comes, and the self-sufficiency is already within her. So she's never searching outward for it from anybody, from not a man, from not a woman, from not a teacher, from not an employer, from not a boss, from nobody. She already has all the tools she needs in her ecosystem, in her belt, in her skin, in her body, that she needs to flourish. And that's the point that I'm trying to get to, because, I think that's sometimes where we get lost. We start looking for it for other people, even the people who are closest to us. And I think it's a slippery slope.
Oh, absolutely. Because you become the 5 closest people to you. If you're not grounded, if you're not your own rock, if you're not grounded in your own sense of being, you're just little tidbits of everybody.
That's right. And when those people are busy doing other things, your best friend has gotten married and now she has a kid and she doesn't have as much time for you as she did before. Someone passes away. Your relationship with that person, something y'all just broke up. You and the boyfriend broke up. Whatever it is, now that can't shift how you still view and feel about yourself. I think that's what it is.
Okay, this is such an important clarification and a gorgeous transition, because you said on a podcast episode how other people rejecting you is a choice that you don't buy into anymore. And you don't let other people reject you, which is like part of this such a strong self-concept, which I fucking love. But we were talking about
you're right.
Thank you so much. So my question for you is, we just did a unpacking shadow work. And in part of that, I shared an example of me moving through rejecting an aspect of myself. So although I can let other people not reject me, there's still always stuff that comes up where, like, I can reject a piece of myself and then move through that. But so as someone so grounded in that, like, what are some things you do to move through that? Or, like, how do you find yourself? How do you catch yourself and pivot back to that light?
I don't know. I mean, I want to say something so philosophical and meaningful here. I think, you know what
That's the most philosophical thing you can say, is like, we don't really know.
I don't know. You know what it is this. And I think we get so heady about things. We truly do. Because you know why? We're in a world now where there's a word for everything. we're unpacking, we're we're feeling and we're emotional about this and we have it. And I think it's amazing. I really do, because I think that being able to identify what you're feeling is better than just struggling through it. Of course. So I'm with it. I'm with it all day. I love it. I think it's a big part of mental health, and I think it's a big part of wellness.
Right.
However, sometimes I think it's just like you're just living, right? You're just living. And that's what it is. Like you're just living. Yeah. And life is going to throw you lemons, and that is okay. Yeah. And hopefully the lemons aren't as big every day as the other times. You know what I mean? But that is okay. I think, and so for me, to answer your question of how I kind of like get through that, it's just, look, I'm just living. Yeah. Like I'm just living. Comes with it. It just comes with the territory, and I'm just living. And all I can say is what I do try to do. I try my hardest under all circumstances to keep a positive attitude about life, because I think it's a gift. And now that we know that life can be taken away from us at any given point in time, I try to stay with the gift. Yeah. And the gift is being able to have friendships, right? Mm-hmm. That really, people who really, truly care about you, that's a fucking gift, because you know what? There's a lot of people who have fucking horrible people around them. Yeah. There's a lot of people that influence them in the wrong way. Yeah. And so that's not cool. I love that, right? I love the gift that I have of my friendships. I love the gift that I have of my family, the people who care for me. And listen, the people who live in my house, that's my crew. Yeah. That is my crew. I ride hard for those people who live under my roof, and I will do anything for those people. That is my rock. That is my foundation at this point, and I ride hard for them. Yeah. I'm thankful for it. I'm living in that light. I take it in, I soak it in every day. I want to be filled with it. I can't wait for weekends, because I'm like, I get to spend all day with y'all. I get to spend whatever I want. We get to do all the things. I can't wait. Weeks are crazy because we have so many different schedules going on. It's the best part of my week, my weekends, because I get to spend it with my family, my crew, my squad, right? But I think those are important. That's how I do it. Yeah. That's how I live. Things are going to get me down. That's a part of life. It's a part of mental health. I think the biggest part is you just got to figure out what brings you the light. Yeah. When you're down, what brings you the light? Yeah. Circle back to that. And then don't let it be too deep. Things are going to be deep. Yeah. Things are going to hurt. Yeah. Things are going to be painful. I'm not negating that, because that is a part of life. And I've been there. I've done that. But even in those moments, give yourself the moments to grieve. Mm-hmm. Give yourself the moments to experience feelings in life. But what's the circle back?
Because if you know those are inevitable, why create them?
What's the circle back? And not even why create them. It's like, it's going to happen. Right. It's not even, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. Right. It's not even why create them. It's going to happen. But you're going to wake up one morning and you're going to feel so fucked up. Yeah. And you may not even be able to pinpoint why. Yeah. You might just wake up tomorrow morning and be like, fuck, today sucks. Yeah. Yeah. Shit. Like I didn't sleep right. I felt like I was waking up all night. Man, where's my car? Man, fuck, everything going wrong. You might wake up like that. You just got to find the light. I'm telling y'all, you have to just find the light wherever the light is. And trust me, there is a light in every situation. Yeah. Somewhere. It might be hard to find it, but you just got to find it. And I think once we follow that, once we keep following that, then we can find, our way. But some things you might do, I'm telling you, there's a lot of shit that people go through. Yeah. There really is. There's a lot of things that people go through. There's a lot of like stories that you hear that you're like, damn, right? And I think you have to realize, if it ain't that, you're good. Mm-hmm. If it's not that, you're good. Because there are things that people go through that is just heart-wrenching. Yeah. It really is. And they have the right to be fucked up. Yeah. They have the right to feel all sorts of way. Yeah. I tell my kids all the time, do you have the right to feel that right now? Like, is that your life? Right. Let's put some things in perspective. Right. Let's really do the landscape here. Let's have empathy for what needs empathy, and really start to understand what we can really overcome. Right. Build your muscle. Yeah. Build the muscle. So when the things happen, your muscle is built, but build the muscle. Right.
And that's what I mean by not creating them, is like going back to that response of that big picture, to be like, if I know it's inevitable and it's a part of life, then when I'm not in that, like, let's have that big picture wherewithal to be like, I don't need to create this as a response to something that it's not.
You might. That's the thing, though. That you might create it. You might just because
I see what you're saying.
See what I'm saying? You might create it and not even know that you are creating that response, but you might create it. The thing is not living in it, right? Not circling around it and living in that moment. I think that's where we can get lost because that's a slippery slope.
Now, I was using a wrong term for what I was trying to explain. I see your distinction. 100%. But
100%. It's a slippery slope. It really is. We all could be anywhere tomorrow. Yeah. We don't know. We're very blessed to be where we are right now, but we all could be anywhere tomorrow. And I think we understand that, then we can have so much gratitude in the moment right now. And I'm not talking about really extreme circumstances where people are really going through. Sure. But I'm talking about for the point of this conversation in the life that I'm assuming that we are in right now. It's a slippery slope. And it's you really have to put things in perspective.
Gotta find the light.
You gotta find the light.
Lizzie, you're cool as fuck. And you're raising some very well-adjusted, empathetic kids.
Let's hope so.
Next words out of my mouth. Or will you adopt me?
We'll see in 10 years whether they need therapy themselves and if they blame me the whole time. But that's okay. I'm willing to take that risk.
Thank you so much for this conversation.
It was
for your honesty, for the way that you move in the world. Appreciate it times a million.
Thank you.
It was so wonderful talking to you and getting to know you and soaking in that perspective. Oh my gosh.
So many more questions.
So I know
for another time.
Part two. That's always what happens.
Part two.
There's always got to be a part two.
All you guys do is get pregnant and then come online.
I was
she'll be first. She'll call you in a couple months.
I'm gonna call you and be like,
yeah. And then we're gonna unpack it all.
Oh yeah, baby.
I love it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How fun.
Oh my goodness.
That was great.
How's it going, y'all? It's Aaron. Don't let your Monday suck. Don't have those Sunday scaries. I'm tired of everybody waking up in the week saying, shit, it's Monday. You know what goes down? TMV releases every week on Mondays. Make sure you rate and review wherever you get your podcasts. And if you're watching YouTube, yes, TMV has a YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and ring that noti bell and never miss a thing. And also, join the TMV Familia by joining the Thoughts May Vary Patreon and by following @Thoughts May Vary Pod on Instagram and TikTok. Thank you for listening.
Great.
There you go.
Thanks, AB.
Got y'all.